And then I saw her face. I'm a believer, and not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love.
Hey guys, CUHD here, and I am back with another reaction video. And today I'm going to be reacting to another MOP fanfic reading, and this one is by a different reader. And as for the title of the fanfiction, this one's called Apple Bloom Gets Her Cutie Mark. And it is by, hold on, let me find the name. Give me a minute. Okay, the writer's name is Reitanna Seishin. I really don't know how to pronounce that, but I think it's Reitanna Seishin. Anyways, of course, this fic is supposed to be scary, but yeah, let's see what happens in this. So let's get to it, shall we? I have the tiger! Aw, man.
Story time!
I'm starting to enjoy that. Anyways, let's sit back and enjoy the video. Or reading.
Applejack! Applejack!
Apple Bloom squealed, running up to her sister, who was bucking apples. What is it, Apple Bloom? Applejack asked in bewilderment.
The most awesome thing just happened!
Apple Bloom replied, hopping up and down.
You just gotta come see!
Apple Bloom, I'm sorta busy.
But you gotta come now, before you miss it!
Applejack glanced at her basket of apples, and then sighed. Alright, where are we going? She asked the filly.
Sugar Cube Corner!
Apple Bloom said, trotting ahead of her sister to lead. Applejack frowned, her heart giving an unpleasant jerk. Pinkie Pie's sisters were there. Pinkie Pie's there, right? She asked quickly.
Yeah, it's her who has the surprise!
Yeah, and Derpy too.
Why don't y'all just tell me what's going on?
I can tell by
Apple
the
Bloom
screen
turned to Applejack impatiently.
that I'm staring at right
Then
now.
it wouldn't be a surprise, would it? Now hurry up!
Applejack hurried after Apple Bloom, anxious to see what all the fuss was about. The two ponies came to Sugar Cube Corner, which was completely empty inside. Not even Mr. and Mrs. Cake were there. In fact,
where are
noticing
they?
that the lights were off, Applejack assumed the entire bakery had been closed. But why? What's going on? Applejack asked softly, as if afraid she'd disturbed something. Apple Bloom led her behind the counter, opening a very well-hidden nook under the floorboard. Applejack saw that there was a button, and Apple Bloom pressed it with her hoof, making a door swing right out of the wall. It had blended in so well, Applejack was startled when she saw it. What the? She muttered.
Well, come on!
Apple Bloom urged loudly, and hurried down the stairs of the secret cellar. Applejack followed, closing the door behind her, and slowly descended into pitch-black darkness. Apple Bloom? She hissed nervously. Apple Bloom, I can't see anything. Applejack was interrupted by a very hard blow to the head, and she collapsed to the floor. When Applejack finally managed to come around, she saw that it was no longer dark in the cellar. It was dim, but light enough for her to see the room around her. It became immediately clear to her that something was wrong. The entire place was decorated with party decorations, the kind Pinkie Pie would normally put up, but they didn't look right. They were dark and covered in some sort of crusty grime. She also noticed skulls of ponies. So many ponies. Oh, Celestia, Applejack said weakly, noticing the shapes and the sizes of the skulls. There were foals, mares, stallions, and a single one with a beak. It was the skull of a griffin.
Gilda.
Good morning, AJ! It's a brand new day! Wake up! It's time to play!
Sang a familiar, jubilant voice. The pink pony bounded in front of Applejack excitedly, wearing a party hat that looked as though it was made out of pony hide, as well as a strange dress. Pinkie Pie! Applejack croaked urgently, making to move, but cried out in excruciating agony. She looked at herself and noticed she was chained down. However, the chains weren't holding her limbs, they were going through them. Applejack couldn't move without triggering another jolt of pain through her arms and legs. Along with the ones tearing at her muscles and bones, there were also chains strapped over her hips and neck, and she was very glad that those weren't penetrating her body. Just then, more ponies emerged from the darkness, all wearing party hats similar to Pinkie Pie's. With a gasp, Applejack saw the other 3 Pie sisters, Derpy and Apple Bloom. She suddenly noticed that all 6 of them were wearing peculiar articles of clothing. Pinkie Pie's dress was made of stitched-up cutie marks, a necklace of unicorn horns, and on her back were many different colors of Pegasus wings. Derpy had a rather long scarf wrapped around her neck, and it too was composed of cutie marks. Inky Pie had an attractive little vest, also made from cutie marks, as well as Blinky Pie's shirt and skirt. Even more marks created socks for Minky Pie. And Apple Bloom? Apple Bloom? Applejack exclaimed, seeing that her little sister was wearing an apron that was stitched together like the other pony's clothing, but in addition, there was a brand new bow in her mane to match. It was a terrifying sight, and if it didn't hurt so much, Applejack would have been struggling to free herself.
Hey, sis!
Said Apple Bloom happily, clopping her front hooves on the floor in excitement.
What's going on?
Applejack whimpered.
If I had a bit for every time I heard that,
said Inky Pie softly, and the others laughed.
Apple Bloom said you were one of the strongest ponies in Ponyville,
said Derpy, fluttering closer and landing next to the filly.
So we said we'd use chains instead of strappies, but Apple Bloom said you'd still get out. So Minky Pie said, let's put them through her arms and legs. And it worked,
Pinkie Pie added. Apple Bloom leapt up and grabbed Applejack's hat, placing it on her own head.
I think this is mine now,
she giggled.
You won't be needing it.
Sugar Cube, please tell me what's happening. Why y'all have me chained up like this?
Applejack pleaded.
Apple Bloom snapped,
said Pinkie Pie to one of her sisters.
Can you bring Rainbow Dash over here? I'm sure AJ is just dying to see her again.
She giggled, and
Wait,
Applejack's eyes
Rainbow
widened.
Dash?
Rainbow Dash?
She shouted, but her astonished expression turned to horror, and she immediately started sobbing when she saw one of her best friends, the Pegasus that had been missing for months, taxidermied right before her eyes. There were still bloodstains in the fur.
Aw, look, Applejack! Look how happy Dash is to see you!
Cried Pinkie, grabbing the stuffed pony and turning it to face her terrified friend.
What did you do to her?
She murmured, almost.
Didn't this take place after cupcakes?
Applejack,
said Apple Bloom suddenly, as Pinkie Pie started ballroom dancing with Rainbow Dash.
didn't you ever wonder why Pinkie Pie's cupcakes tasted so good? 'Cause we've been putting a little something extra in them. And then we started baking other stuff,
said Derpy happily.
And we shared our yummy yums with every pony in town.
You telling me that all this time you've been making cupcakes out of all our friends?
Applejack shouted, finding her confidence again, the feeling of rage drowning out her fear.
Yep, and other stuff too. Don't forget that,
said Pinkie Pie.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It started with just
blood
cupcakes. Ever since
and
I came to
organs.
Ponyville, every pony has been enjoying my fresh-baked cupcakes. But we didn't start baking ponies and other things until Derpy joined us.
Apple Bloom, how in Equestria did you get into this mess?
Applejack exclaimed at her innocent-looking sister.
Funny story, actually.
Apple Bloom replied.
You see, round 1 or 2 years ago, I seen Miss Pinkie Pie dragging an unconscious stallion behind Sugar Cube Corner. I wasn't very discreet back then,
Pinkie admitted with a giggle.
so I followed,
The filly continued.
and saw her pulling him into a hole in the ground. The tunnel led right in this here basement, but later on, we filled it back up 'cause we installed that door. Anywho, I followed Pinkie Pie down the hole and saw her strapping that stallion to the table. But wouldn't you know, she saw me and nearly started crying. I asked her what she was doing, but Pinkie kept saying she didn't want to get rid of me for being a witness, and I got scared. I was so young back then, I could barely understand what the hey she was doing. But when I told her I wouldn't be upset, she explained everything. Pinkie Pie told me how her and her sisters made cupcakes when they were fillies, and then said that her special
Wow.
ingredient
So
was
much
other
talking
ponies.
from Apple Bloom.
Apple Bloom went on.
I was a little scared at first, but then that stallion woke up and Pinkie started showing me what she did. I didn't know why, but it fascinated me so much I decided I wanted to help. I didn't think I'd be any good, but I sure proved myself wrong. I thought maybe I'd get my cutie mark this way. Even when Pinkie Pie taught me how to finally bake the cupcakes, I got nothing. So I figured, maybe this is just for fun. Maybe my cutie mark is supposed to be something else. I keep trying though. I keep hoping something down here will happen that'll finally get me my cutie mark. It's too bad you won't be around to see it come, sis.
Apple Bloom, this is nuts!
Applejack shouted, wincing as her slight movement tugged on the chains a bit.
You know what you're doing, right? You're killing ponies! You're a murderer! I can't believe it's been you guys all along. All them ponies gone missing, disappearing.
Yeah, you'd think ponies would have caught on,
said Pinkie Pie with a wicked smile.
Nope, every pony is just too naive and trusting. And who would suspect innocent little Apple Bloom, Ditzy Derpy, and that oh-so-jolly Pinkie Pie?
Applejack looked over at Inky, Blinky, and Minky.
I knew something just wasn't right about you three.
She spat, but all three sisters grinned evilly.
Oh goodness, were we that obvious?
Said Inky Pie
Isn't
in
that
sarcastic
one with the
sadness.
dress limestone?
Applejack,
Minky Pie said in her quiet voice.
you said that you'd take care of me.
Yeah, well, I honestly wanted to be your friend, you psycho, but I guess that ain't happening.
Snapped Applejack. She looked back at Pinky.
And you gone and corrupted my sister! And Derpy, too! I refuse to believe she understands what she's been doing.
A very scary expression of anger flashed across Derpy's face, and she stepped forward.
I liked you.
She growled, almost as soft as Minky Pie.
Always. You always was nice to me, always said hello to me, and always was helping me when I have trouble with something. But you think Derpy don't understand what Derpy is doing. Well, Applejack, I don't understand so good with some things, but I understand what all us is doing. Derpy is baking with her friends. Derpy is having fun making muffins from ponies. Derpy is being happy when the ponies are screaming in pain.
Derpy?
Applejack whimpered.
That is
horrified.
not what the real Derpy.
Derpy shrieked, and Applejack flinched, yelping in pain as the chains were tugged by her jolt. Derpy lifted herself into the air, glaring down at Applejack with malice.
I hate it when ponies say I don't understand what I'm doing. They call Derpy a retard, or say Derpy is slow. I just don't understand so good. I don't see so good, and I don't fly so good. You think so too, right? You think Derpy is slow.
Applejack couldn't respond, too frightened to even open her mouth. Derpy glared for a few more seconds, and then flew over to Minky Pie, landing next to her with a clatter of her hooves.
Corrupted me?
Said Apple Bloom finally, starting to pace in front of her sister.
I don't think I needed corruption. I think this was all meant to happen. Everything happens for a reason, right? That's why I was the one who volunteered to take you when your number came up.
You volunteered?
Applejack exclaimed in disbelief.
Mm-hmm,
replied Apple Bloom.
One last bit of bonding, right, sis? You know how much I love spending time with you.
And how you gonna explain this to every pony?
She shouted.
They'll all know I'm missing, just like Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, but they didn't try too hard looking for her, did they?
Apple Bloom sneered.
Or any pony else for that matter. You ran away before, didn't you? All I have to do is start crying and say you took off without explanation. And poof, you're gone.
Tears streamed down Applejack's eyes as they fell upon her dead friend, Rainbow Dash, then her insane friend, Pinkie Pie,
Now
and
AJ's
finally
gonna
her own
end
sister,
up like Rainbow
whom
Dash.
she loved and cared for. The sister that was going to take her
Why am I
life.
even saying that?
Apple Bloom,
Please
beg
don't
you,
hurt AJ.
Applejack said softly, surprisingly calm.
don't go through with this. Back out. Leave all this behind, and you and I can run away. Start our own apple farm in the country and never speak of this again.
Apple Bloom frowned, her lip giving a little tremble, and Applejack flashed a loving smile. However, her smile fell when the filly started laughing.
I can't believe you fell for that!
She snorted.
You really thought I was considering it. Oh, jeez. Why are the honest ones always so gullible?
Applejack couldn't help it. She began to sob, whimpering from the pain in her limbs, her heart filled with sorrow as her sister continued to laugh. It wasn't any kind of laugh she had ever heard from Apple Bloom. It was wicked, frightening, and malicious.
She's such a
Jeez
good
almighty.
actor.
Blinky Pie
How
cried.
is Apple
Whole
Bloom
thing
so
to see
wicked?
her, and now
She's
this?
supposed to be
I'm
cute.
jealous.
Apple Bloom smirked proudly, expressing her triumph with a light hop.
Enough talk.
She said, and the other ponies closed in on the torture table.
It's time to party.
Applejack looked to each face quickly and then took a deep breath.
Help!
She screamed, but to her dismay, her keepers started cackling again.
Soundproof.
Pinkie Pie giggled.
We're
Soundproof.
underground and there's padding in the walls. Seriously, did you think you're the only one who's cried for help?
Applejack hung her head in defeat, still sobbing, but trying her best to keep still.
All right,
Apple Bloom exclaimed.
what should we do, girls, after I get her cutie marks? Let's play dress up,
said Derpy happily.
Dress up?
That's a fantastic idea.
Pinky squeaked, and
Wait,
Minky
just
Pie began
dress
rolling their
Applejack in
tool
a-
cart into their work
In a
area.
Cutie Mark dress?
Applejack sniffled.
Please don't do this. I'm your friend.
That's what makes it even better.
Pinkie Pie replied.
It's much more fun to play with friends. Dashi and I had loads of fun, didn't we, Dashi?
She turned to the stuffed Rainbow Dash, and then giggled.
Oh, she's a little shy since she doesn't have her cutie marks anymore.
Applejack let out an enraged shriek, and despite the pain, she started struggling against the chains. The room was full of snapping and ripping sounds as Applejack's arms and legs broke, as well as her screams of pain and fury. She wanted to hurt Pinkie Pie, something she had never wanted to do.
Uh-oh,
Derpy cried suddenly.
she's getting brave.
She won't be able to stand the pain for too much longer, Inky said without concern, a wicked smirk on her face. No matter how angry she is. Inky Pie had been right. Even though Applejack's hatred had fueled her adrenaline, the pain in her limbs was much too great. She fell limp, noticing she no longer could move her arms and legs, for they were completely broken.
Well then,
Said Apple Bloom.
that certainly was a show, Applejack, but we ain't here for dramatics. We're here to play.
Apple Bloom took the scalpel
That
off
isn't
the
play.
table and walked over to her sister's right flank.
Let's make you remember what it's like to be a blank flank.
Oh no.
She started slowly
Please
carving
no.
a circle around the 3 apples, blood immediately oozing from the incision. Applejack whimpered and gasped in pain, but gritted her teeth to try and bear it. Once she had detached one cutie mark, Apple Bloom proceeded to removing the other one. When she finished, she took the hat from her head, set it upside down on the table, and put both cutie marks inside.
Beautiful job, darling.
Exclaimed Blinky Pie, doing an impeccable impression of Rarity.
Why,
That's
thank
a-
you, Blinky Pie.
Said Apple Bloom happily, and she
That's
turned
a
back to
horrible
her distraught,
impression.
broken sister.
Of
But
Rarity.
we ain't done nothing yet. Can I give her a haircut?
Asked Derpy, holding up a rusty razor blade.
Go ahead. Just make sure you don't cut yourself.
Apple Bloom replied. As she started fiddling with her tools, Derpy flew over and gripped Applejack's ponytail in her mouth. She swung the blade down, but missed the hair, slashing her cheek instead.
Ooh.
Applejack yelped from the new source of pain.
Oopsie.
Derpy giggled through a mouthful of blonde mane.
I'm so clumsy. I guess I'm not so smart, huh, Applejack?
Derpy tried again, but only managed to slice the tip of the pony's ear off. Still sobbing,
Jeez.
Applejack came to the conclusion that Derpy was missing on purpose.
Oopsie.
She said again.
I just don't know what went wrong.
After a third cut, Applejack's
She's supposed to
ponytail
say
was
that in
severed,
a cute
leaving
way.
her mane much shorter. Derpy chopped her tail as an addendum.
Ooh, super savvy.
Pinkie Pie cried, helping Apple Bloom assemble an unknown something together.
Rarity would be proud.
Apple Bloom added.
Seriously?
Derpy did a few
Rarity would be
flips in the
proud?
air before returning to the floor.
Do you
to see what
think
the
she
others
wanted
were doing.
Applejack gone?
Got some leftover fish hooks over here, said Blinky Pie, holding one large hook in each hoof. What do you think? Those would make lovely earrings, Inky Pie replied. Blinky trotted over to Applejack, humming merrily, and then carelessly shoved the hooks into each earlobe. Applejack didn't scream, but made a small squeak sound as she flinched.
She's already got a chain collar around her neck.
Said Apple Bloom thoughtfully.
Maybe a crown?
She and Pinky had managed to rig up a messy crown made of razor blades tied together with twine. Apple Bloom handed it to Derpy, who flew over and jammed it on Applejack's head as hard as she could. A sharp scream echoed once again around the room.
We can stick nails through the links of the neck chain.
Pinkie Pie suggested, holding up a box of nails.
Great thinking.
Apple Bloom chirped, and she took the box from the pink pony and approached her sister. Applejack watched the filly, her heart broken, wishing this was all just a nightmare. How could her innocent little Apple
It's no
Bloom be
nightmare.
so sadistic? Her thoughts were torn
It's
away
all
from
real.
the pain in her heart and replaced with pain in her neck as nails slowly punctured it. Apple Bloom was sticking the nails through the chain links, pushing them right into Applejack's skin, but was careful to avoid hitting the jugular vein. She didn't want her to bleed out before they were finished. Once she was done, Apple Bloom stood back to admire her work. Trails of blood streaked down Applejack's body, staining her fur. Apple Bloom tilted her head for a moment, and then
Jeez.
took the chain on Applejack's left leg, detaching it. Before Applejack could register what had happened, she cried out in agony once more, for Apple Bloom had yanked the chain as hard as she could, breaking the leg clean off. It fell to the floor with a soft
Do we got any wooden sticks?
soft
She asked
thud.
the other ponies.
We can give her a peg leg. I
A
have
peg
bone.
leg?
Pinkie Pie squeaked, and she trotted over to a shelf that had many pony skulls, as well as other parts, and brought back what looked like a femur bone. Apple Bloom took it, and then grabbed some duct tape from the toolbox, wrapping it around Applejack's leg many times to attach the bone securely.
Pirate!
Derpy exclaimed, and suddenly jabbed a screwdriver in Applejack's right eye. Her voice cracked as she let out another wail, Derpy digging the screwdriver into the eye socket.
I spy with my little eye.
She said over Applejack's screams, and finally managed to pop the eye out.
Urgh.
She held it in her hoof as if it was an Easter egg she had been trying to find.
The
The
eyeball?
eye string thing! Hey, Pinky, what is the eye string thing called again? Optical nerve, silly!
Pinkie Pie replied with a laugh, and then trotted over with a pair of scissors to sever the nerve. Derpy giggled, waving the eye in front of Applejack's face, which was drenched in tears and blood.
Optical nerve. See, AJ?
Ew, it's so
nerve.
wet.
So I guess that means we're going to need an eye patch, said Blinky Pie,
Yeah, give
sifting
her an
through
eye
all of the
patch.
junk
I
in the
can't
box.
bear to see that.
I can't seem to find one, Pinkamena,
So what do we do?
asked Minky in a falsely defeated tone. It's simple, my dears, Inky Pie replied with an evil smirk. We improvise. She held up a medieval choke pear. Said Apple Bloom thoughtfully, and continued to dig in the box.
I actually was thinking of something pretty. Like, ooh,
Apple Bloom pulled out a blue cocktail umbrella with her mouth.
how about this?
Inky Pie looked
A
a
cocktail?
little disappointed. All right, she's your sister, I suppose, she mumbled. Apple Bloom grabbed a bottle of superglue and walked back over to Applejack. If you're going to kill me, just do it, she murmured hoarsely.
Keep your hat on. Oh wait, you can't. I took it off.
Apple Bloom giggled, and she squirted glue on the inside rim of the umbrella, then stuck it into Applejack's eye socket, holding it in place to make sure it stayed. Applejack winced at the stinging sensation from the adhesive, but as it dried,
Glue on your
he was
eyes?
excited.
There.
I bet
now
that's gonna sting.
what I call a pirate.
The other ponies clapped their hoofs together. Apple Bloom, Applejack whispered, her voice seeming to lack breath. The filly smiled at her sister.
Yeah?
She replied sweetly. You're my little sis, she sniffled, her head pounding, body aching, and heart torn to shreds. I love you. Even after all this, I still love you. But I beg of you, Apple Bloom, please, please, don't do this to any pony else after me. Please give this all up. It ain't right. This ain't you, Apple Bloom, it just ain't.
I don't know what you're talking about, AJ. Of course this is me. I haven't changed a hair since I started, except getting better at the trade, of course.
What will your friends think when they find out?
Applejack croaked.
Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo?
Yeah, they wouldn't
ain't
want
gonna
to be your friends
no
anymore,
more.
Apple Bloom.
Aw, shucks, sis. You sure are a Debbie Downer.
Apple Bloom
Oh, a
giggled.
Debbie Downer?
Their number shouldn't come up for a long time.
You're actually gonna kill your best friends?
They'll get special treatment just like you did. Don't worry about them. The friends and family discount!
Pinkie Pie said.
Friends and family discount?
But I'm sad because I'm pretty sure Rarity, Fluttershy, and Twilight Sparkle are not for a while either. Oh well, the longer the wait, the more they'll taste great!
Tears continued to slide down Applejack's cheeks as she hung her head. She had given up all hope, not even caring whether she lived or died. The fact that her other best friends, plus many more, were going to die soon after her, brought her more sadness than anything else ever could.
What do you say we wrap things up, girls?
Said Apple Bloom to her fellow teammates.
Ooh, we should perform for her.
Derpy cried suddenly.
They
We
perform
can
what?
sing our new song. Gosh, do you think we're ready?
Asked Apple Bloom nervously.
I think we've got in enough practice.
Said Pinkie Pie with a wide smile.
Besides, this is Applejack. She deserves to see our first official performance. I'm so nervous but excited.
Said Derpy with a tremble.
Nervous-sided!
Pinkie sang, and Apple Bloom ran across the room to get some large object leaning against the wall. When she returned, Applejack saw that it was an acoustic guitar.
Look,
An acoustic
Applejack.
guitar?
She said, strumming a single chord.
I've been learning to play the guitar. We all wrote this song together. I hope you like it.
As Apple Bloom tuned the guitar, Minkie Pie stepped forward and shot a syringe in Applejack's abdomen. Blinky added a second shot in the chest. At last, Apple Bloom began to play, and the 6 of them started to sing.
Raise your hopes
does sound like a great song.
You won't stop until you find your heart has stopped beating and you're dead. The fun never ends, not even when you're dead.
By the time the song ended, Applejack could no longer feel her body, but somehow was energized, as if she hadn't just spent the last hour screaming while enduring gratuitous amounts of torture. Nevertheless, her fear escalated again once Applebloom took the scalpel and made an incision on her abdomen.
Well, Applejack,
Minkie Pie whispered, standing close to Applebloom so that she could get a good view.
what did you think of our song? We worked oh so very hard to get it right.
It was great.
She admitted sadly, sniffing helplessly.
It was very great.
Yay!
Derpy squealed, running around in a circle.
Did you hear that, Pinkie Pie? Our song was great! Fantastic-terrific!
Pinkie exclaimed.
We'll definitely have to perform it more often. All right.
Cheered Applebloom, and she opened the skin
Seriously,
flap she had
Derpy,
made on
what would your
Applejack's
daughter
belly.
Dinky
Let's
think
finish
of
up.
you?
Who's got the bucket?
I do! Shouted Blinkie Pie in her usual unnecessarily abrupt voice. She carried over the metal bucket in her mouth and set it next to Applebloom.
There you go, Sugar Cube.
She said, impersonating Applejack, who lay limp with misery and hopelessness.
Well,
Great.
you've
Ready,
stolen her
Applejack?
identity.
Asked Applebloom, but Applejack merely stared solemnly at her, one last tear streaming from her remaining eye.
Here we go.
As the filly began disemboweling her, the other ponies hummed their little song, a smile on each of their faces. Applejack
Oh,
felt
again?
the urge to vomit as she saw her own organs being pulled from her, but Applebloom had just removed her stomach, so nothing but a small bit of blood came out. The humming started to fade and echo, as if she was moving away from the sound, and her vision became horribly blurry. Though it sounded as though she were underwater, she distinctly heard Applebloom say,
Bye-bye, sis. I love you.
Then her heartbeat became slower and slower, even as it was gently taken from her chest cavity. Applejack's head went limp, and she moved no more. Just then, a bright flash illuminated the room briefly, which nearly blinded the ponies because they had been so
Gosh,
accustomed to the darkness.
No
Once
offense
it had
to the
dawned,
riders,
all of
but
the mares gasped,
to the
staring
rider
at
who wrote this
Applebloom's
fic,
flank.
what has gotten in your
She
head
asked, and
that
then
possessed you to
looked
write this?
At last, after all this time, she got her cutie mark. It was a shiny red apple with a single green leaf, and there was a kitchen knife stabbed into it.
Wow! That was it, Appleblue!
Pinkie Pie squealed, hopping up and down.
Killing Applejack gave you your cutie mark! Killing Applejack gave you your cutie mark!
Calm, sweet sister.
Said Inky Pie softly, putting a hoof on Pinkie's shoulder. Applebloom was so overwhelmed with happiness, she was crying, practically hugging her own flank.
After so long, after so much hard work,
She sobbed.
I
So,
finally got it! I
Applebloom
finally
gets her
got
cutie
it!
mark and
Her teary
Killing her
eyes
own
looked up
sister?
at her friends, and then she rushed to them, crashing right into a group embrace. The mares were so proud of their little filly baker, it seemed like their hug would never end. However, after several minutes, Pinkie Pie was the first to break away.
Wait,
She said.
how are we going to explain what it is to every pony? Easy squeezy!
Derpy chirped.
Applebloom is just so good at cooking with apples.
The laughs and cheers of the bakers
Yeah, pretty
echoed
much, I
through
would
the
say
dark
so.
basement as they began to clean up. Pinkie Pie was sitting at a table in the bakery with her three sisters, Derpy, Applebloom, Rarity, Fluttershy, and Twilight Sparkle, all enjoying the fresh baked
Oh, gosh.
cupcakes. Applebloom had decorated each one with
What's
a thin
gonna happen?
slice of apple, which made them look even more tasty.
These are divine!
Rarity exclaimed, unable to keep herself from talking with her mouth full.
They better be.
Said Applebloom with a smile.
After all, they gave me my cutie mark.
She hadn't stopped admiring her mark since she had received it the previous day. That certainly is an interesting one, said Twilight before eating the apple slice on her second cupcake.
Yep, but it's mine, and it's all I ever wanted.
Applebloom finalized with a proud nod. Fluttershy had been watching the other Pie sisters nervously, specifically Minkie Pie. After a moment, she managed to tear her attention away from them and onto Applebloom.
Where's Applejack?
She asked.
oh no.
Dunno.
Applebloom said with a shrug.
She said something about picking up some bales of hay from another farm. Haven't seen her since.
She's
You
missing
liar.
out on these delightful treats.
Said Rarity, sneaking a third cupcake from the plate in the center of the table.
I'll bring one home to save for her when she gets back.
Applebloom replied with a wide smile. No pony noticed this unsettling smirk except for Fluttershy, whose eyes widened slightly. It bore a striking resemblance to the smile she had seen on Minkie Pie the first time they met. Looking around at the other bakers, she noticed that they were all wearing similar expressions of malicious triumph. It made the Pegasus feel uneasy.
I know I won't be able to fit in my summer dress now, but I just can't seem to resist them.
Rarity sighed as she ate an apple slice.
Better make it bigger, Rarity, because this sweet train makes no stops.
Pinkie Pie said with a giggle. Once again, Fluttershy noticed the creepiness of her smile. What was going on? Was she just imagining things? Just then, there was a very tiny squeak of a sneeze, almost like a rabbit sneeze. Minkie Pie wiped her nose gently, and every pony laughed, except Fluttershy.
That was adorable!
Twilight giggled.
She's so little and cute!
Minkie didn't acknowledge her, nor did she look up, but simply nibbled her own cupcake.
Look what you did, Twilight. You made her all shy.
Rarity cooed. They had both been trying to get used to Pinkie's sisters, choosing to focus on their good traits instead of their scary ones.
Minkie, your mane is so long and lovely, you simply must let me style it sometime.
I bet you could make up a cute
Yeah, it
little
does
dress
look like
for
a
her
great
too.
mane.
Said Apple Bloom happily. Minkie Pie blushed, hanging her head so that her mane covered her entire face.
How about it then?
Continued Rarity soothingly.
Can I dress you up?
Minkie Pie remained silent for a moment, but then let out a barely audible,
Okay. We can all play dress up!
cried Pinkie Pie.
Rarity makes the greatest clothes. I want to wear bubbles.
Said Derpy, clapping her hooves.
Then I can fly and look like bubbles floating.
Sounds fun, said Inkie Pie with her eerie smirk.
We'll go right after we finish these cupcakes,
said Twilight, and the others agreed. They continued to chat, but Fluttershy's eyes continued to scan the bakers' faces. Something was wrong. Something was
definitely.
very, very wrong.
Okay. So, first off, it all started with Apple Bloom getting excited, and Apple Bloom checked on her sister, telling her that there's something surprising at Sugar Cube Corner, and then Applejack got knocked out, and then she sees herself being, like, restrained to, like, a table, and then she sees her sister working with Pinkie Pie, Derpy, and her sisters, and then they just torture Applejack, and then they also made a song about killing ponies. And then at the end, Twilight, Rarity, and Fluttershy showed up. You know, I don't check out some of the readings from Reitanna Seishin, but you know, if I subscribe to her, I guess I could check them out, but I'm not gonna react to all of them because I feel like it's like too much for me. Whew. Anyways, I'm gonna end it off here. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and ahoy!